there. Are you an aspiring author that is struggling to sell copies of your book? Well, I got good news for you. It might not be your story. It could just be your book cover. Join us in today's video as we talk about the critical importance of a compelling book cover, and we better understand why some book covers fail to attract the readership that they're after. We'll dive into common book cover mistakes and talk about how we can better avoid them, as well as discuss the essential elements of a successful book cover and understand the tips needed to make sure that your book cover pops. Dillon, just don't judge a book by its cover. I know what you're getting at, but that's bullshit. Welcome back, everybody. You know me, Dillon Barr, former best-selling author of nonfiction books such as Breaking the Charts and The Happiness Gap, current co-creator of an interactive comic series called The Tales of Bestunia, where we work with young kids to help them with their imagination and creativity. And whether you are a self-published author, a traditional published author, a vanity published author, we are talking all things book cover today. Book covers matter more than you think they do. Do not let a poor book cover be the reason that your sales are not soaring. So, if you are passionate about getting your message out to the world, if you're passionate about a cover that shows that and that can inspire your readers, guess what I want you to do right now? Hit the friggin' subscribe button. Click the thumbs up. Share comments of what works for you in the comments below. We love to hear from you. Let's create together. With that said, though, let's jump into today's video. All right. Let's take a stroll down memory lane for a second, all right? It's elementary school days. You're in first or third grade, and you find out what's coming to town, the Scholastic Book Fair. You talk to your mom and dad. If you're lucky enough, you had divorced parents like me. I talked to each of them. I got $10 from mom, $10 from dad, $20 to go to the Scholastic Book Fair. I was ready to ball out. And let me tell you who I was as a kid. I was a young kid, full of energy, young boy, playing in my grandparents' backyard with sticks that I would pretend were katanas, and I'd pretend to be a Ninja Turtle. I was fascinated with the art of a warrior. I was fascinated with animals. That was a release for me. And I went into the Scholastic Book Fair, and I still remember to this day this book that grabbed my attention. It had this little mouse with a sword on it, and it was the Redwall series. There was another book that had a fox with an axe across it, and for me, it just grabbed my attention. I had to have them. I remember as the years went on, I would wait for Scholastic to come back to town. At the time, I thought that was the only place you could buy a book, and wait for the next animal to arrive on the cover. To this day, I have never read one of those books, but I was enthralled to grab it. You've all been there. You just see a book that calls to your attention. As I got older, I would go to Barnes & Noble with my mom. Same thing. I remember The Gunslinger by Stephen King had this crow or raven on the cover, and it was this Western, and at the time, I was into the whole cowboy scene. I picked it up immediately. I did read it. I finished that series. It's incredible. And as the years went on, I got into my nonfiction stage of life. I went from Barnes & Nobles to Amazon. I was actually living overseas. I was in Kenya at the time, and I was cruising through Amazon, and I saw a book that just said, I wanted to write a book. I saw a book that said published, from blank page to 10,000 copies sold. And I was hooked. I knew exactly what I was going to get. I grabbed it. I picked it up. I read it, and I had the courage to reach out to the man that wrote the book, who had a company called Self-Publishing School at the time. And I reached out and said, I want to work with you. And I did for a while. Years later, now I'm creating content. Yeah. So what is it about it, that a cover that can draw us in, not just to a book, but to a message, to a world? Remember, that's why you want to get your book out. You have a message in your heart. You have a message in your mind that you want the general public to see. They can't see that without first seeing the cover. So what I want to talk about today is, what is it that makes that cover pop, so you give yourself the best chance to put your book out there? Let's start, though, with what doesn't work. I remember when I first worked with Chandler, he always gave two big examples of book covers that were a bit challenging. Books that changed his life, but almost didn't get a chance to be read due to the cover. We'll put them up on the screen here. But the first one was called The Road to Enneagram Journey Back to Self-Discovery to You. right? It's a book. Clearly, if we continue to look at the book right here, we see that it's a road back to you, the Enneagram journey to self-discovery. But it takes a while to really understand. We're mixing certain things together. We're mixing the title with a subtitle, and it's a bit difficult to really comprehend and take in at first as someone that doesn't know what it's about. Now, myself, I love Myers-Briggs tests. I love Enneagram, and I do think one of the reasons this book did so well is because it has an internal assessment, very similar to Strength Finders. Strength Finders, incredible book. I bought that book because I wanted to take the self-assessment. I wanted to understand myself more in the same way that I would buy a book like this because I want to understand myself more through Enneagram. I'm a 7. But a book like this, when it can be a bit discombobulated, makes it tough for someone to initially just click purchase. I know exactly what I'm going to get with this book. It's difficult. The second book that we could show maybe right over here is a book called Extreme Revenue Growth: The Secrets to Startup to Grow Sales from 1 million to 25 million. I remember when Chandler first told me about this book, he said, hey, this book completely shifted my mindset in the first page alone. It's an incredible book, but when he first purchased it, it only had about 6 reviews on Amazon. He said, again, he would not have bought it if someone did not refer him to it. The challenge here is you have mixed and matched fonts. The title seems different than the subtitle. Personally, not a huge fan of the color scheme. But again, this is a book written by the great Victor Cheng that almost didn't get purchased. And I would imagine for a lot of people, did not get purchased due to what they see at first. It is that cover. Covers do matter. You have a message in you, and we invest time, and we invest our awareness and our passion and sometimes finances into writing this book. We invest countless hours into writing it. And then we get to the book production stage and we're like, okay, I've done the tough part. Just pick a cover and let's publish this bad boy. People will know my message. And we don't realize how much we're potentially hindering the success of our book. We need to be as serious about book production and publication as we are when it comes to writing the book. So what can we do to stay rooted and passionate in the book production phase and make sure we get the best possible cover design for our book? Well, let's go into it. So let's start for you nonfiction authors out there. What is it that your cover needs, your cover must have in order for people to purchase it so they can read your message? Well, if you look into Chandler's book, Published, you'll see that he's got 3 simple rules. Rule number 1, your cover has got to grab the reader's attention. And I'm going to go a little bit more in depth here. Your cover's got to grab the attention of your desired reader, right? You are writing your book and your message with a specific avatar or target audience in mind. So you have to grab that person's attention. The cover that's going to grab the attention of a 40-year-old businessman is going to be different from the cover that grabs the attention of a high schooler or early college student that's trying to discover who they are in this world. I wrote my book, The Happiness Gap, for the latter. This is probably not going to grab the attention of a business builder, but it is going to grab the attention of that young at heart, late high school, early college student that's trying to figure out, who am I and what is it that makes me happy? Is there something out there? Could there be a gap between myself and happiness that I don't fully understand? You want to grab that reader's attention because that's the person you want to instill your message to. All right, rule number 2, you want to make sure that your title and subtitle are super easy to read, right? When you look at Chandler's book, Published, The Proven Path from Blank Page to 10,000 Copies Sold, very easy to read all the way through and understand what you're about to get. When we're using different fonts and different colors that don't seem to match, they kind of clash, it's difficult. It makes that reading process tough for your potential reader. And you need to grab their attention like that. They need to be drawn in. And if they're sitting there saying, okay, they're going to keep scrolling. Make sure it is super easy to read. And rule number 3, make sure that your cover conveys the message of what your reader or desired reader is going to get from cover to cover. Published, we know exactly what we're going to get from it. Published, the proven path from blank page to 10,000 copies sold. We'll use the other example over here. The book on high ticket sales, the ultimate guide to making millions through remote selling. I know exactly what I'm going to get from Chad Alio's book because it's told to me. Chandler used to say that you want your book title and subtitle to be so easy an 8-year-old could tell you what the book is about. We don't have to try to confuse people and lure them in with some weird title and subtitle, especially if you're new. People don't know who you are. You don't have your name to back you up yet. So you have to be straightforward and let people know what do they get when they read this book. Those are the 3 simple steps from the book Published. Side note, I know I keep talking about Published by Chandler Bolt. If you would like a free copy, you can go to selfpublishing.com/free-book. We'll put the link in the description below. Go ahead and check it out for free. Another thing in Published that I love is the rule of thirds. This is a rule that The Road Back to You did not follow, and if you're an aspiring author that people don't know yet, I would highly encourage you to follow, is breaking your book cover down into thirds. The top portion of your book cover should be your title. Right at the top, first thing that I read is your book cover. Boom, grabs my attention. The middle third should be your subtitle. What is it that this book is about? Straightforward, let me know what I get from this book. Try to keep it in the same font. And then the bottom third will be your name as the author. A lot of people, when creating their book covers, they try to put their book at the very top. That's the first place the eyes are going to go with this. People don't know who you are. They're going to say, that's not Stephen King. That's not John Maxwell. And they're going to keep scrolling. So put your book title at the top, subtitle in the middle, and put your name at the bottom. Follow the rule of thirds when creating your book cover. The other thing you can think of when constructing and creating your book cover is the acronym CLEAR. And to teach you this, I'm going to bring in Professor Barr. Welcome, class. And we're going to go over the acronym CLEAR when going through your book cover. Get out a pen and paper, or we can just write this in the bottom, right? First off, C in CLEAR. Make sure your cover has complementary colors, colors that don't clash, colors that grab your reader's attention, colors that are going to lure them in, those sexy colors. For L, we say the lower author name. Make sure your author name is at the bottom portion of your cover. E, easy to read points. Make sure it's super easy to read from top to bottom. A, make sure it has an appealing image, and it's an appealing image for your desired reader or avatar. And finally, R, make sure you follow the rule of thirds. Top third, title, middle third, subtitle, bottom third, your author name. And that's where you can put any potential testimonial quotes from people that have read your book. So be clear when constructing your cover design. Self-Publishing School also has a complete book cover design checklist. If you would like it so you don't have to watch this video again with me in it, just check out the link below. It's free. Now, if you're looking to go to a professional when it comes to getting your book cover design, I would highly, highly, highly recommend that to start off. But who would I recommend? Well, if you're doing this on a budget, I'd recommend companies like 100 Covers or 99 Designs. They're very professional. They will ask you questions such as, which subcategories are you looking to rank in? Which keywords are you going to use? Tell us a little bit about your target audience. Let us know your book description, and they will take all that information with the knowledge that they have on Amazon and put together some cover designs and give it back to you. Now, if you've been following our launch videos that we've put out in the past and you have a potential launch team that's starting to follow you, give these covers that 99 Designs or 100 Covers gives you, because they'll give you 2 or 3 to start. Give those 3 and stress test them with your launch team. Put them to the test and see which ones grab the attention of your desired readers. And I would make sure you're taking into account more so the people on your launch team that fit your avatar or target audience of who you're trying to reach. So feel free to check those 2 out. Selfpublishing.com as well does the entire book production process with you. It's a very collaborative experience where you get to work hand in hand with their design team to make sure you get the best cover at the end of the day. If you're also following this video for this long and you're like, Dillon, you're the fiction guy. You like fiction. I like fiction. You're telling me a bunch of stuff about nonfiction. Get to the good stuff. You know I haven't forgot about you. If you're writing fiction, questions I would make sure I ask, questions I would make sure you ask yourself is, what genre are you writing in? Are you writing an epic fantasy? Are you writing a sci-fi? Are you writing a horror? Are you writing a mystery? Are you writing a literary fiction and it's taking place right now? It's another thing I would ask is, what is your world like? You know, is it a complete make-believe world? Is this happening in downtown New York City, but there's a spiritual twist to it or a fantasy twist to it? Is it happening in outer space? When you start to understand what genre, subgenre you're writing in and what your world looks like, what I would recommend is go out and find other authors that are tackling a similar genre, that have a somewhat similar world. No, you're not that original. Somebody out there is doing something similar. For us, for the Tales of Bestunia, a world that is high fantasy. It's a make-believe world where people are born with spiritual beasts next to them, and I'm writing an epic fantasy, as well as the fact that we are self-publishing this. We are pulling ourselves up by our bootstraps and doing this on our own. We got a lot of inspiration from the Windfeather series. Incredible series of books, more high fantasy as well. You can see they also have beasts with what they do. So we took those covers as inspiration when giving our illustrator that inspiration of what they could draw from when creating our comics cover. So ask yourself, what are the genres you're writing in? What's the world look like? And who out there has done something similar that has had success and drawn in readers and got their attention that you can stem off of? There you have it. The quick gist of what it takes to make sure to have a book cover that pops. Grab the reader's attention. Make sure it's super easy to read, title and subtitle. Your readers know exactly what they get. Follow the rule of thirds with nonfiction. Make sure it's clear. You get what I was doing. And if you're writing fiction, make sure you know what your genre is, what the world looks like that you're writing in, and stem off of other successful authors in the past in the world of fiction. All right. With that said, we wanted to take a moment to dedicate this video to a very special person, Joel Friedlander. Joel was an award-winning book designer, blogger, and writer. He was a columnist for Publishers Weekly and was named by Writer's Digest as one of the 10 people to follow in book publishing. He was also a blogger behind thebookdesigner.com, which is now a website part of selfpublishing.com's platform. Unfortunately, Joel passed away in 2021, but we are committed to keeping his legacy alive. Cameron Chapman, the new editor-in-chief of The Book Designer, has come in and made a complete revamp of the website. So if you're interested in all things book design, I highly recommend giving it a look. There's an ongoing joke at selfpublishing.com that TBD was the worst design website, and that has completely changed thanks to Cameron. So highly recommend checking it out. There'll be a link in the description. Additionally, for this week only, selfpublishing.com is offering a free publishing strategy session with one of their book specialists. Make sure you schedule a time to talk with one of them today to talk about all things related to your book and the publishing journey, including your book cover. That's selfpublishing.com/book consultation. Book today, thank me later.